It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Let's get this show on the road.
Before you say anything, prepare to shut the fuck up.
Screw me. I ripped ass at the ATM.
McLovin! Nice!
Sit back, relax, and enjoy irrelevant platitudes with your hosts Peter Benici and Lil Dazil.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to episode number 51. We're hosts Peter Benici and
Lil Dazil, bringing you all things irrelevant commentary on pop culture, dating, and relationships.
You almost fucked it up, but you got it.
So close.
We're back after possibly a 5 to  6 week break, I think, for
It was
online.
the Chrissy holidays. We had to.
But it's because of my laziness that we're still delayed.
Self-care. Burnout relief. Prevention.
I was just being lazy.
Yeah.
But I suppose before we get into everything, I want to introduce the guest at the start because we drag it out and then
like we are now.
They don't know if they can talk or not, so we'll do
true.
it now.
Yeah, I don't like being quiet.
It's not James. So funnily enough, this is not James, but hello.
Hello.
Morris Roberto. Hello,
Absolutely.
friend.
Hello, how are you?
How you doing, mate?
Oh, look, I'm surviving in the world of adversity and
Yeah, true.
ridiculous 35, 40 degree weather days and all this bullshit that we think that
He
we're
walked
supposed
into
to
the
enjoy with
house
straight.
and instantaneously was like, I can fucking tell you just got home. The house is a fucking heat wave.
It was like, turn on the air conditioner, open the balcony, let me go have a
Making
smoke.
so many Damn, you make more demands than I do when I come in.
He's good people, so
I
he can
love
make
it.
demands.
No, but it's
yeah,
important. It's great that
exactly.
you know what you want. I'm
gotta-
just
you
like
gotta
sitting
be-
there like, it's a little bit hot, don't you think?
No, you've got to be direct.
He was like,
You've
turn
gotta
the
be
fucking
direct.
air conditioning on.
I'm a direct person. I'm also just like, we just got in the house. Let's take a breather.
I know.
So love that you
I
do
have
that.
this argument all the time with my partner, and it's like, turn on the air conditioning. It's like, but we're going to bed. It's like, I
Don't care
No,
what time of night it is.
doesn't-
I'm saying turn on.
I
the
don't
aircon.
care that you're cold as long as I'm comfortable.
And that's how relationships should be, right?
Absolutely.
About your own needs.
The comfort you need to be able to be that honest.
You just got to remember Whitney Houston.
I will always love you.
No, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all.
Oh,
And try not to smoke too much crack.
And I know it's going to sound ultra gay, but RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how
the
in the hell are you going to
hell?
love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in
amen.
here?
Mhm.
So I guess that segues us into why we brought you on today.
Yes.
Just to give everyone
Yes.
a quick brief before we go into the show. So we actually haven't had a gay dude on the show yet. And I
that we know of?
You're calling me a dude.
yeah. I've always
Dude.
called- and you call me dude, so it's dude appreciation.
Okay, are we
yeah.
clarifying that we're all he, him? Well, not we're all. 'cause
I'm a
I don't know.
he, him.
There you
Look,
go.
I'll be honest, and I don't want to upset. I'm
Identify as bro or bra.
non-binary and all that sort of stuff. I'm still trying to get my head around it, but no, I'm definitely.
We'll have chats later about that.
I'm a
Awesome.
man.
Yeah, so I basically what's going to happen to everyone listening today, once we go through the normal show run, is we'll do the interview we've done with everyone that we usually get on.
For their intros. Yeah.
But this will be Morris-themed questions.
Yep.
Yes.
And you've got a particularly interesting story about coming out when you did, because
Yep.
the time period when you did, it was fucked.
Absolutely.
It was definitely a problem for people to just be themselves.
Yeah.
And the terrifying part was it was the 90s?
It was 90. Was it 91, 92?
you
So
go.
I mean, look,
So I was a kid.
I
You
was
were-
non-existent.
Yeah, okay, that makes me feel
thank you.
fucking
Yeah,
old.
I'll just.
That's-
And so you're saying what? So what if I knew Jesus personally, type of thing?
A little bit. They call it ADs in instead of after death, Anna Dazil. All right. That's
Yeah,
fine.
no,
Yeah,
it doesn't. That doesn't. Yeah.
but yeah, so we're going to get a big insight because I think a lot of our listener base skews kind of around Lil's age bracket, and
Which
I think,
is-
Really? I'm 25.
Yeah.
But
Oh
my
25
God.
to 29, I
Yeah.
think is the.
so. I just
general.
want people to kind of get a real understanding of
It's nice to
how
diversify
fucking
our
fast things have jumped from being.
Yeah.
where we are now.
Look, it's still not the best, but significantly safer, I think. For,
Yeah.
for a lot
And
of
look,
people.
there were also quite a few factors around what influenced that around religion and Catholicism
Yeah.
and my
you should call them faggoters.
cult.
A few factors.
What?
a few factors.
Factors. Well, this is the thing, and
a matter of fact
maybe I'll
for
shed some
people.
light on that term, faggot, because it is very frowned upon in the gay
It is
community.
very, very frowned upon. So,
So-
as you see, it's an open space, so
You
there's
wanna
no
talk about
judgment in the
sexual
room.
health
You can
crisis
say whatever
as
you
well
like.
during
Yep.
that timeline. I think that'd be really important to mention and speak to.
Yes.
Definitely.
But all right, so we'll step through our main stuff, but
Yeah.
we definitely, I want to work on that. I like that part where they like the listeners know they're here.
Yeah.
Because we've done shit in the past where the person's been there for like what, 15
5
minutes?
Oh.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, and the guest is in the back. So
Yeah.
you're part of the new format.
Yeah, who's that dud sitting in the back?
Who's that person with the fly kicks? Whew.
Oh, yes.
Right.
I thought I'd wear the pair of Christian Louboutins.
Just to
Red
make sure
soles,
you're
red
making a
soles.
statement.
There you go.
That was so unnecessarily fucking
Yes,
loud.
bitch.
I'll turn it down. It was very loud.
Thank you. Shall we drink of the?
Yes.
Drink of the week.
All right, so to not stray from tradition, this week's drink is going to be White Claws for everyone.
I've already opened mine, so
yeah.
Oh, can I have
cheers.
someone open mine?
I got you.
Please.
You got to
Cheers.
look people in the eye and say cheers.
Yeah,
I'm
and-
autistic. I don't have that rule apply. Thank you.
Because we've tried to tell her.
Yeah, no, it
or
doesn't
it's-
work.
is the same reason for you 7 years bad sex? Is that the reason you
I
guys
just thought it was bad luck.
Well,
Yeah, 7
politely,
years bad
I've
sex.
maintained my sex life and not had bad luck.
Well, I was
so
going
I'm
to say I don't have a problem in that area, so maybe not looking people in the eyes is
exactly.
not a bad thing.
You can all learn from the autistics. Thank
But
you.
yes, so everyone's drinking White Claws, varying flavors. You got the new pineapple,
Oh, pineapple.
though.
It's actually really tasty.
you like it?
I do. It tastes like a calypso a bit. Do you want to have a sip?
I know what it is. But have
want
you?
a sip?
How'd you feel
I
with the
got
watermelon?
watermelon.
A bit.
It's a bit fucked.
Yeah, try that. Do you like that better?
Let me
Lime.
try it with
That's
this
that's
lime.
their flagship.
You haven't got COVID, have you?
No.
Well, we're all fucked.
too late
up.
Oh my
now,
god, I
yes.
might catch straight germs.
Yeah, you.
It's not bad.
You might have
Yeah.
to guzzle a bit more down before that happens.
Yeah, and give me a lobotomy.
Happy to do that. Only if you give me one, we can do ice picks together.
Yeah,
There's
ratchet.
Amy in the chat. Hello. So we've got about 5 people watching
Damn,
live right now. So I think a few of your mates have jumped in.
The 5 of
And
you.
they jump down.
So we'd like to thank everyone from Morris's crew that's jumped on and listening live, to everyone listening to the recorded mix at the moment. I'm just fiddling around trying to
We
see
are
what
gonna
we're
get
gonna
our
do next.
TikTok.
We are doing
That
TikToks
is what
now.
we're doing.
TikTok.
And
See?
hiding the
Yeah. That
questions.
head bob, that is exactly how I felt when I first heard
Do
it.
you like it? I made that.
You
made
have
that.
to wait a response
You
before
got
you
to
like
remember, I
that.
do music production, so you might be up for a bit of competition.
That's okay.
but
Yeah.
If it was a great 80s disco record,
That was the thing, because it's like the TikTok, right? And it's like, well, Vine. Did you ever see Vine? It was primarily an urban audience, so it was like a bit of
okay.
a piss take of that.
Vine was before TikTok time, but
Yeah.
it was still very recent, like 2012 to 2015, that year frame.
Oh, did I close the?
You probably did, and that is just
I
something
didn't,
we'll have to
I
accept.
didn't. I'm good.
I'm proud of you.
All right. So,
and you work in IT, right?
I do. That's why it's all working to plan. To everyone listening, we're about to jump into the TikToks. We don't have as many as we usually do, because I want to give some more time for Morris, and I forgot a bunch of them. But Pepper, your Angus,
I'm so sorry.
let me.
I don't think my video is going to be that quality.
I'm glad that one hit, because I
brilliant.
could not stop laughing when I first saw that. I was at work, and everyone's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nah, nothing. I just can't."
The special needs.
Just dominating. That's the
Just-
one strength.
Just smashing
Put it
in the
into like
fucking...
60 K's an hour. I'm going to floor you,
Just going to
bitches.
third. See you later, dickheads. And this is Lil's contribution, or do you want to credit this to Razzie? Is this you?
No, this is me.
This is all
it's
you?
so trash, but it's...
Let me just see.
All right.
Damn. She looks so good. Wait.
only my youth will understand.
I miss her so much. But I gotta stay strong.
Now that just made me laugh because it's spot the fuck on to what I do when
Yeah.
I'm on the fucking toilet.
I think that's literally everyone's take on. So, do you want me to explain it for you? No.
Yeah, I just thought she was like on meth or something and
that's-
losing her shit.
So with all the stories and stuff on social media,
Yeah.
you can
who
actually see
watches
who's
your
watched
stories.
them, and that's
Okay.
the only reason people do that is to see what people watch
And if
their
you
shit.
want to post the thought trap shot,
Yep.
to get attention.
Do you know what a thought trap is?
A what?
Slutty
Thought trap. It's just slutty photos.
Yeah, I do that regularly. I don't look at who looks at my story though, because I'm like, I don't give two fucks. I'm just like here to post a slut photo. But people will do that, and then you can like slide up to see who's looked at your photos. And a lot of people will upload photos just to gauge a reaction and then see who's watching it, and they're like obsess about it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So you'll have people that will, but it also will come up first. That was the joke.
Yeah.
The guy was just taking a shit and just like scrolling
Just swiping
through stuff.
because like it'll still come up when you're looking at stories, but most of the time people aren't even looking; they're just skipping through because
But
they're bored on the toilet.
that was it for the tops
That's the context.
this week.
You learn something useless every day.
Right? But now you know.
That was so hurtful, and I love that as a sentence. I'm so going to use that. You learn something useless.
But I think we'll transition
that
into
was brilliant.
getting to know Mr. Roberto.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all the while, you're just really wondering, are we going to get hopped up enough to make some bad decisions? Perhaps play a little game called Just a Tip. Just for a second, just to see how it feels.
Okay. I will put us back on full screen.
That would be.
Excuse
brilliant.
everyone watching. I'm slightly rusty. It's been quite a while.
It's been
All right.
5-6 weeks.
That's what she said.
No, other one.
No, I got to close this one down.
So to fill the time between Nucci picking up the Word document, I'm going to slowly
Here we go.
speak.
Alrighty.
And
Oh, you just got
there
cut
we
off
are.
then.
No, it was good.
You'll survive.
I will.
All right.
I've been rejected many times.
So I guess we can explain how we know each other
Yep.
first off and just go from
That would
there.
be helpful because I
Yeah.
need more context. The audience needs more context.
So myself and Mr. Morris worked together for 4 years at
Was it that long?
Yeah, at a specific government institution.
Yes.
in Victoria.
And we created. Well, I think I started it. So when I used to go downstairs for a smoke, I had to walk past Pete's desk.
Yeah.
And so I'd walk past and I would just look at him and go,
It was
like
quite
up
funny.
and down, like a really shady, like
Like, fuck you.
you trash,
Yeah.
and just
You're
walk off. And it became something
trash.
that every time for that entire period, that's what I would do. And he'd laugh and I'd laugh and then I'd just walk off.
Oh, like little
Yeah.
mutual banter and
Yeah.
silence. Oh, I
So
like
that was
this.
our
That's a nice little
that was our kind of man time connection.
Yes, and I think he always had really, really fucking amazing shoes. Always.
I mean,
And that's, as you can see. And if you haven't and you're listening to the podcast, you
Check
should
him
watch
out.
the video on Spotify that we have every week.
his kicks look great. Yeah.
But
Thank you.
I think, so you were in HR and obviously I was in the IT department.
Yeah.
Oh, so you wouldn't have even been able to do anything if he was treating you like shit.
I'm a
I didn't-
contractor as well, so-
I didn't give a shit. I'm kind of like the real opposite of what a HR professional should be.
Yes.
So is my dad.
Correct.
I'm very loud. I'm inappropriate.
So is my dad.
I had one of my managers actually put a swear jar on my desk and said,
Actually?
yeah, because and I would stand up at work and burst into song and
That's
No,
sound like a fun boss.
but it's not like it would just make the workplace better. So in the workplace after, significantly once he left, you would just see the drop off eventually.
Oh, shit.
To where there's
Well,
no culture now and it's
That's
just
kind of nice
weird.
to hear the impact that you've made.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, look, you got to make you're there, 7.6 8 hours a day. You got to make it fun, or else you just go fucking insane.
Yeah.
Agreed. Why be in a job that you already hate to make it only worse?
Yeah, so I'd do share impressions. I would do whatever.
Yes.
We're gonna
Like
see
if
this
something was
later
really
on.
funny, and look, your listeners probably won't remember, but the one thing that I used to do that I considered kind of like my creme de la creme of impersonations. Back in the 80s, on a show called Better Homes and Gardens, there was a botanist. I think he was. His name was Alan Seal.
Jesus.
But the problem was
It's a
that
deep
Alan
reference.
Seal had a really pronounced whistle when he pronounced his S's. So, for example, you go, the roses are and the
Hey, it's a guy from
syngoniums.
Family Guy.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, the pedophile.
and so he'd go, and yes. And so every time he spoke, you'd hear this whistle. And he actually put out an album, like a K-Tel album
You're
back
fucking
in
kidding
like
me.
84, 85. And even when he
From Better
sung,
Homes and
he
Gardens.
whistled. Oh, you know.
After we air the
We
episode,
need to
let
listen
us
to
show you the Family Guy pedophile that whistles, and I think you'll stop whistling. It's the funniest shit ever.
Okay.
Just say, "Hey, Chris," and hey,
Yeah, with the-
Chris, but with the
With the
lisp.
lisp thing.
Chris.
That's
Yeah, we're
exactly
going
how
to
he
show you
does
that
it.
later.
So that's obviously how we know each other.
How do we know
and-
each other? Well, we just
Well, we met
met.
about
5
5
minutes
minutes ago.
Okay, it's a bit of an under exaggeration. It was about 20 minutes ago.
52 minutes ago.
Yeah, meet autism. It's a thing. Okay, so we'll start you with the IrrPlatPod 15/now 16
Yes.
questions.
Yep.
Obviously, this is a relationship and dating podcast, and everyone wants to know what is your relationship status
Currently.
sir.
Well, I'm de facto. So my partner Gary and I. Gaza. Well, Gaddy's from Scotland.
Yes.
From Scotland.
He's from Scotland.
Very nice.
So Gary is my partner, and we've been together
I think it's Gary
for
this
5.5 years.
Beautiful.
And he's my world. I've never met anybody like him, and we dated for about a year, and then he moved in. Let's get the sexy crooner music on. And
And you're
playing George Michael like a, not only gay but a gay icon, right? Actually, for Gary, you should have played maybe Tina Turner because that's his kind
We
of.
don't go that deep on the soundboard. My
We
friend.
don't, but that's a nice. I want to
But yeah, so that's my status. So I am a taken man. I am in a monogamous relationship,
That's actually a good statement as well to make.
and I am
relationship.
the happiest person on the planet.
I'm very jealous. No,
I'm
kidding.
glad to hear that.
I will challenge you for the happiest person on the planet. No, I'm kidding. But
Because
I
you
won't
got these
challenging.
bobblehead
I won't be
things everywhere.
look
challenging.
at it. I'm
either
a
of you.
massive child. It's
You are.
Yeah, you need to
truly
find a
so.
different hobby. I think.
it's reached capacity. I think.
Nah, you can
No,
just
there's
sell
no
more
more.
and buy
It's-
more
it's
and
a
get
little
more.
bit- I mean, I can't
installs.
talk. I've got a shoe collection that
Yeah.
obviously goes for kilometers, but
I don't know what it is about guys and collecting things.
That's just an
It's-
autistic thing, actually, gentlemen.
no, but like
Collecting. That is an autistic.
animals collect shit. Like it's not just a people thing, right?
Okay.
But I've noticed like every dude collects something.
I had an ex who
Whether it's-
collected shoes and then an ex
Yeah.
who collected vinyls. So
yeah. Well,
There you
I
go.
do collect vinyl as well, but of a specific band that I'm sure is going to come up sometime during this discussion because
are you going to just raise it now?
When?
I feel
they
like
were
it's
part
time.
of my Dead or Alive.
There you
Come
go.
on,
Yes,
people.
Thank you.
But they the lead singer of that band, Pete Burns. Actually, I'm wearing a Dead or Alive t-shirt today.
And you got Dead or Alive, I assume, as a
And I have a
tattoo.
Dead or Alive
Of course you do.
tattoo. He was instrumental in me as an adolescent really being confused about everything and looking at this man, and I wasn't attracted to him sexually, but I just looked at him and because he was so androgynous and so
love
outrageous and spoke his mind. He wasn't, and we can probably talk about this a bit later, but when I was a kid, I mean, look, I'm approaching 50, so
Yeah.
Looking so good for
Full non-law
that,
status.
truly.
You're fine.
yeah, it doesn't bother me. But when I was a teenager, we had Boy George, who was this very safe. Grannies loved him.
Yeah.
His music was very safe, and then all of a sudden, Pete Burns and Dead or Alive sort of came out at the same time, and he was, his interviews, he could be really scathing, but he spoke his mind, and he was just really, somebody who I became immersed in what he did, but his music. For me, kind of created a connection because music is a big part of my life, obviously. And, I played guitar for 11 years and,
I didn't know that.
My friend James and I are a production crew called Lynn Lovers, and we've released a few songs. And, but, for me, it was his Dead or Alive's first big song was a song called You Spin Me Round, which went number one.
Fucking bop. Sorry.
All over the world.
You put that in the
And-
music thing you did at work as well.
But it was called so that music was called High Energy, but they used to call it Boys Town music because it was gay dance club music, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And that was the first sort of song that transitioned it from the gay clubs into your commercial top
Mainstream.
40.
Yeah.
And then you team that up with how he looked with the huge hair and the eye patch and the really scandalous outfits and all the rest of it.
Motherfucker had an eye patch.
Yeah, but he did that because he just had a
I'll
nose
bring it up
job.
for people at home.
He just had a nose job, and so
What was the cunt's name again?
Pete Burns, but you have to type in maybe Pete Burns, You Spin Me Round if you want that
spin
specific look because he
me
evolved
right round, baby, right round,
into
like
quite a unique creature.
right round.
But so if you go, so the
That's
first,
fucking amazing.
Is that like a studded one as well?
he had a nose ring.
I thought he had studded little eye patch. I'm like, that's a
But
little bit extra.
that was in the film
that
clip
there.
for You Spin Me Round.
Such a good song.
Yeah, and he died, as it says up the top.
What the fuck is that?
Thank you for making me feel better.
This is
he
exactly
was-
from cardiac arrest. Damn, second person
Yep,
Oh, 57.
today that I've heard about
57
that. Elvis
in
Presley's daughter
2016.
died
He died.
today.
Pre-COVID, so people can't blame it. That's good.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
But okay, so
So we're in a de facto relationship with the love of our lives. So in another question to kind of, I guess, follow that. Sum up your dating life in 4 beautiful words.
So you can
use them
do
like a
single
sentence
and then
or single.
married.
Yeah.
Or either. It's up to you.
Okay. When I was single, experimental.
Ooh, I like that.
I'd also say discovery.
Nice.
And
2 more.
the 2 that I will put together that probably only I know only my partner Gary will understand is très beaucoup.
Très beaucoup.
Très beaucoup.
I feel like it's obviously a French word, but I feel like I've heard that. Wait, très, very.
Was it?
Yep.
Very beaucoup, good, very
Much.
good. Very much. Like I love you very much.
Well, so
Very
our thing that we share together is one of us will say I love you and the other one will say very much.
Mm.
And then we were watching Emily in Paris as any
Is that any good?
as any good homosexual does,
Oh.
because the outfits are unbelievable and
The French men dress fucking men in Europe just know how to dress.
it's a Sex in the City for the new generation. But
Oh, Sex in the City will never be.
Gary does speak a little French, and I said, what does very much mean in what is it in French? And he said très beaucoup, and I went, okay, and then I forgot it the next day, and I was trying to do a picture wordsmith so I could remember it, and it just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our little sort of thing that we do for each other.
That's really
That's
nice.
3 though. You got one more.
No,
No,
that's
très beaucoup is
it's
2 words.
Very much.
Hey, I like it. All right, cool. But I was gonna. Speaking of film and things like that, did you watch the comedy that came out, Bros?
Yes,
What'd you think?
wasn't a fan.
Right? It was just written poorly.
Look, it was really hyped up, and you had people like RuPaul and all these other, gay icons and stuff really hyping it up. And I sort of watched it because I was, with a lot of anticipation.
Yeah.
And I sort of watched it and I went, that was it. And it was really, really cliched.
Yes.
There's a lot of cliches in the gay world, and there's a lot of stereotypes. Some of them are true, but of course they had to. The guy that comedian, whatever his name is,
I think he wrote it. I'm pretty sure.
He wrote it, but the guy he started dating, big, he was muscly and
we've
really good
discussed
looking,
this.
and all that sort of bullshit. And unfortunately, that is a stereotype that is very true in
the community,
gay culture. So, but as a film, I didn't really think much of it. But
what about the Neil Patrick Harris series?
That's brilliant.
Right?
Uncoupled.
I fucking watched that in one sitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was fucking awesome.
It was great because it was good acting, really good writing.
That's the
but
big
it
thing.
had a level of, and I think perhaps you need to be gay aware or gay or whatever. That some of the jokes and some of the scripting was you'd sort of sit there and go, oh yeah, I've heard that, or I would expect somebody to say that, you know. And I think that today, like in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, I think this whole thing around gay culture and drag culture, RuPaul has taken the whole culture of drag queens and all of that sort of stuff, and really it's throttled into the media that we watch in television and stuff, and it's quite amazing to me because in the 90s, in the early 90s when I started going clubbing, drag queens were in seedy little bars or in clubs on Commercial Road in South Yarra, but
You'll see them a lot more frequently.
These days it's very, very
like you go to
accepted.
Fitzroy in like 4 or 5 different places have drag queen performances before they go
my
out of the
coach,
lives.
so for New Year's we went to her. It's like a 5-story thing.
Oh, I remember.
And my coach is like a super alpha masculine dude from Newcastle. And the bottom level was like the no, it wasn't the gay area, but there was like they had the drag queens and stuff down there.
Yeah.
And he's like, wow, it's like Melbourne's like a completely different kind of space. I'm like, this is kind of where all of Australia will be in like the next hopefully decade, where you get like out to the country towns and stuff.
We are very behind. I mean, you go to somewhere like London, or you go to somewhere like New York, and
I mean they were doing that in the 70s, right?
Yeah,
the drag queens and stuff at Studio 54 and all that sort of like that was
absolutely. But you had, the other thing I think also to appreciate, and I think this is where it's always baffled me, and I've wondered why it's happened. But the 70s and the 80s had some really important defining moments for androgyny / the gay community, because like in the 70s you had people like David Bowie, you had people like Mark Bolan from T-Rex, you had all these glam rockers who, the guys wore makeup. David Bowie, he had an album where on the cover he wore a dress and looked like, tried to look like a woman.
Yep.
And I think that, and then, punk took over in the late 70s, but then in the early 80s, Vivienne Westwood, God bless her, and rest in peace that she only passed away a couple of weeks ago. She was kind of at the forefront of the punk movement in the UK, and she created and sort of started that whole new romantics movement. So in the early 80s, you started getting, bands like Spandau Ballet and Duran Duran and the Human League, and the guys were wearing eyeliner and
you got Queen as well
the
going
hair.
in there too.
You had Freddie Mercury, absolutely. A huge gay icon, and he really pushed it, even
Didn't
with
I Want to Be Free, they got
I Want to
like,
Break Free, he was in drag.
And all of the band
but
were.
the difference is, guys used to crimp their hair and all this sort of stuff, but it was okay.
Yeah,
because it was under the guise of rock and roll, or
it was part of but it got embedded and it was safe. But then in the 90s, it almost like it went backwards 2 decades.
Really,
yeah, you can see it in the fashion style, the way that it has progressed. Because men were wearing flare pants, anything like that.
Yeah,
longer hair.
Yeah.
The minute it hit the 90s, it was like short, slick haircut, bleaching the hair, like at the frosted tips, all of that kind of stuff for most men.
Do you feel like that was cultural?
I think. Look, we live in a very, very conservative country.
Fucking oath. Yeah.
And, really?
Just a tad. And the fact that we
conservative, borderline racist at times.
We're very racist. That I definitely agree with. But conservative, I wonder in what regard.
Oh, you mean is that? But so
give me your definition of conservative, so I have an idea and a frame. Well,
say for example, we were the last English-speaking country to pass. Same-sex marriage, and the fact that we had to do it via a plebiscite and all of that kind of bullshit. And then you look at somewhere like Ireland, and I can't remember if it was Northern or Southern Ireland, where it's highly Catholicized, and you think that would be the last country in the world that's going to get, same-sex marriage, approved and okay. They did it before us, and I'm are we really that behind the 8 ball? And we are, because look, even I remember in the 90s when I was clubbing, and back in the 90s, if you were gay, you went to Commercial Road in South Yarra, and there were clubs like Three Faces and Virgin Mary's and Tasty and Diva Bar and all of these places, and you'd be walking down the street going into a club, and some guy would wind down the window from the car and he's like, fuck you, faggot. And you're just Christ. Okay. But but today I think we've got a new sort of generation evolving. Yeah, you've got this whole non-binary thing going on. Yeah, I don't know whether or not that's going to cause more kickback, because I think a lot of people are really struggling with all of that. And I'll be honest, I do sometimes sit there and go, okay, they identify as she/them. It's like, so what do I use?
Exactly.
And, all of that kind of stuff. But
it does that thing where it swings heavily one way and then it'll come and rest in the middle. And I think we're probably about another 4 to 5 years off that middle point. Yeah. But it's starting to come back a little bit to where we're like, all right, man, like we can literally say, because you got to remember, like I call girls dude and stuff, and it's even though it's gendered language.
Oh, I do it too.
It's there's no. It's
like, hey guys,
no ill will meant.
Yeah, you say hey guys, just in general.
It's about the intent at the end of the day, but at the same time, I think a lot of people, right?
Some people are looking to snipe you, but it says, I guess they've got more going on.
But you're looking at it from like take the identity lens from it. So many people, particularly the new generation, who are just literally coming into their adolescence and who they are before their brains are fully developed. They are looking and latching on to fucking anything they can for an identity. Like, who am I? What am I? And then trying out labels. And I personally, like, I'm all for that. I advocate for it. I'm like, if you want to identify as they, them today, and then next week you're a he, him identifying person, or then a she, her, then that's fine, because you're at the right and most appropriate time to be figuring out who you are.
And you're trying to be authentic.
Exactly. I think the one thing, different hats, right?
The one thing that I sort of noticed, and, from my perspective with my friends who are gay and stuff, even we're struggling in getting on board with all of this, because it's brand new to us. And I find that kind of ironic, because it's like, well, we were vilified, we were objectified, we were discriminated against, people died, some horrendous stuff. And you sort of sit there and you think to yourself, well, what's going on that's making us not be on board with it? And
challenging though. It's a whole new level of adaptation and adjustment.
The big thing is that whilst the big portion that confuses people currently is yours was grounded in a form of reality, right?
Yeah.
So
careful where you're speaking.
No. This is the truth. So you guys or everyone has their sexuality, and that was grounded in fact. But when you have the ambiguity of using plurals as identifiers for a singular person, that's confusing.
Grammatically, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where the confusion comes from. Not only do you have more than one identifier for a person, they can have up to 5, and that's just chilling. Like, what I'm saying is that
The level of
you're opening it into an area of almost fantasy.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Where there's no structure.
It's very grey.
And humans thrive on structure. That is why literally everything that we have is built upon structure.
Yeah.
Right? The difference, I guess, between the jump from gay to when it was like just straight and whatever the fuck they had issues
It was
with.
straight or gay, that was it.
Yeah, is just that I guess maybe back then, that's what I've always tried to understand is when people didn't get, because I assume a lot of prejudice comes from not understanding, right?
Yes.
Where the confusion came from with not understanding people's sexuality, it was just this very personal thing.
And it goes against the norm as well. It makes people uncomfortable when things are changing.
But with
Changes are very
identifiers, that's not
Yep.
necessarily married to sexuality. And
No.
it's another layer of confusion.
No, it's a completely different thing, yeah. Gender
It's-
and sexuality are very
It's this
different,
like
but still
multi-layered tomfuckery that just is a lot.
Yeah. And, you got to remember, throw religion into the mix.
Yeah.
And then you have got a cauldron of poison that's just bubbling over. And
yes.
I think that for me, that was part of the real, what word can I use to describe it? The journey that I went through.
Yeah.
Had a lot to do with all of that kind of stuff when you're dealing with religion, because, I consider, religion can be amazing for some people. It can be very, very toxic for others.
The majority of people on this planet. Yes.
Different generations.
Yeah.
And, there's still people out there in the world that would love to see gays burned burnt at like a stake and set on fire and all sorts of stuff. And it's like, talking about that word faggot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people think, I've had a few people go, well, why do gay guys get so offended by the term faggot?
Yeah.
And it's like, do you get where it comes from? And they're like, no.
They don't have the history then.
Yeah.
And, the medieval times, if somebody was deemed a witch, she'd get burnt at the stake. And eventually what they did is instead, and faggot is a type of wood.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's a
type of
pile
stick.
of pile of
It's a bundle. It's a
I learned that from
bundle
my
or a
auntie
pile
who's
of
a
sticks.
history major. It was very
There
funny.
you go.
And what they did was that instead of using the wood to burn the witches, they would then, get people who they've busted as gay and set them on fire to then set the witch on fire. So
really?
the faggot, which is the bundle of, the pile of wood, was then actual homosexual men.
That's hectic, man.
And so it's got obviously, for me,
I did not know that. I'm learning some shit. Right? Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, that's where it came from. So that's why
But
there's.
why? That needs to be more readily available. People need to tell. That's fucking insane.
Oh, look,
it
you
is,
know
but
what?
people
It
just don't
was,
look into
it was, my nephews and nieces, when they were younger, they went
Yeah.
through that stage of going, oh, that's so gay.
Yeah.
And, I remember my sister-in-law turning around saying, don't use that word in a bad context
Yeah.
because it means something else.
Yes.
And so, the term faggot, and, it's in Australia, Australia used the term poofter.
Yep.
Like, when in 1986, when I went to high school, I went to a school just around here
So I
called
know we
St.
need to get back to the questions, though, but keep going. Yes.
St. Bernard's College. And it used to be called Poofter's Paradise because it
but
was
you
a
know what it's
private
actually
all-boys
called now?
school.
It's actually called St. Bendovers.
Yeah, see.
Yeah.
Nothing
Saint,
changes.
it's just
There you go.
changed.
Yeah.
To be fair, there's always going to be a rhetoric around that shit, though.
Yeah.
Private girls' schools, all that kind of stuff. The first
Yeah.
Yep.
thing that you hear is, "Oh, they must be all lesbians."
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Yes.
that's not how it works. Yes, most of them did turn out to be lesbian. No.
But all right, so it's a rough cut, but we're going
All right.
back. Number 4.
Yep.
No, 3 green and red flags. Thank you
yes.
very much, good sir. Sorry to
Good work. No, it's
just cut
good.
you off.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So you're referring to green and red flags in
Relationships
in a
already.
relationship.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd go with green flags. If I
Très beaucoup.
Très beaucoup. So I'm only going on my experience that I have now. Commitment is a green flag. Talking about the future is a green flag.
Yeah.
With the future, is it? I got it. We're talking into context of you guys are just the person. Like forward casting.
And also, how
into-
far
It's-
ahead is the future?
It's together. Do you know what? We talk forever.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we use the term forever.
Yeah.
I have no doubt in my mind, and it obviously circumstances in life can throw a curveball at you, but I see myself being with Gary for the rest of my life.
Yep.
So we talk about long-term things. So a green flag for me would be that whole thing around we're talking about things in 2 years' time or 5 years' time, and we're talking about so when are we moving to the country? Oh, once we've paid off the mortgage and da 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 da.
And just like lots
Yeah,
of
yeah.
we language, it sounds.
Yeah, it's very much a
decision.
two-way street almost.
Yeah.
So for me, they're my green flags, and
That's
I think,
actually a common one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're good
in
ones
dating
too.
in dating with girls and stuff too. That's something that's actually like dudes don't do it. And it's you have to kind of have this conversation because obviously through the podcast and stuff, I
Yeah.
get lots of questions from mates and whatnot. And you kind of hear the conversations that they have when they're trying to date people, and it's like it's almost inclusive language.
yeah,
Is
Absolutely.
is something that a lot of guys don't use.
I've thought about you in this
Yeah.
instance and where we're going in the
Yeah.
future, not just me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, and look, as our relationship sort of progressed after the first sort of year, we started using a lot of our,
Yeah.
So, for example, I had 2 dogs, 2 Italian greyhounds, and
Yeah.
they were 8 or 9 years old or whatever it was when Gary came into my life, and when he moved in, I just started referring to them as our dogs,
Yeah.
not my dogs.
Yeah, correct.
And so things like that kind of cement it. So they're my sort of
Fucking
green
oath.
flags, but red
Yeah.
flags for me, that tell me a relationship's in trouble. I mean, is
Yeah.
that what you?
Well, just even like say you when you guys first met, things that could not necessarily
could
to
have
Gary.
freaked
Love
me
you,
out
Gary.
and had me running for the hills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shit like that.
Yeah. I'd say when we start dating, if they hear that, brrr, which is the alert that someone's got Grinder on their phone.
Is it okay?
That's a good sign. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So from a social media perspective, if they're still on those apps,
Yes.
and there's lots
Yeah.
of the gay apps like Grinder and
Yeah.
Scruff and
True story. You guys revolutionized dating. So Grinder was the first
dating
digital
app.
dating app that revolutionized like the swiping.
I don't know
shit.
why they call it a date. Well, I know why
It's
they
a
call it a
fucking
dating
app.
app,
It's a
but
It's
it's
just
just
it was the suited like it's a pseudonym effectively.
But ironically, that's where I met Gary. So I don't know. Maybe
So a
I'm
lot
one
of
of the
straight guys
ones
go
that
and meet gay guys as well. Apparently,
came
straight
through
guys.
Wow.
unscathed.
There
I
you
don't
go.
know, but that would be one red flag for me. And I think if I didn't feel a level of closeness, like if you don't feel that connection and that spark straight away.
Mm.
It's not about it's not about the sex, and it's not about it's do I connect with this person? And
Yep.
the second I met him, it was like I just wanted to know everything about him and his history and his cultural background, being Scottish and all of that kind of stuff. But if he was really closed off, if the conversation was awkward, if it was like sitting there and you're watching a movie and you're kind of just going, oh my God, I just feel really uncomfortable in my own
Yeah,
skin
that
right
in
now.
itself is a really good. Yeah.
It needs to be really organic, and if it's not organic, that's a red flag for me to run.
Yeah.
But likewise, a red flag for me is and this has happened to me before, where I dated someone. I know it's one of the questions further down, but things got a little bit kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Oh,
And another red flag would be if they were into some freaky fetish shit that I just could not deal with.
what would
Okay.
that
Like
be?
like
included?
2 girls, 1 cup type of stuff.
Oh, okay. Very fair. Valid.
Is that common?
that
There
fetish?
are. I think the sort of acceptable fetishes in the gay world are things around domination,
Yes. Yeah.
and all of that kind of stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
because men know what men want, type of thing.
Yeah.
There's obviously when you get more extreme, there's things like fisting and da da
Yeah.
da da da.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's domination and that sort of stuff, and that sort of having power over somebody else.
Yes. They do say that's because I guess a lot of you'd say like the masculine energy would feel like there's a lot of pressure.
Yep.
So they do say like the high powered kind of businessy type roles that they will be even like in the straight dynamic, that the people that are into like the loss of control and the dominatrix stuff and like the really kind of fucked up submissive.
And
sort of
this is the
things.
thing, in those apps like Grindr and stuff
No
like
kink
that.
shaming though when I said fucked up, by the way.
is they'll say I'm dom verse top or I'm a sub. So they're making it really clear. I want someone to dominate me, or I want to dominate somebody else, and all these kinds of things. So that's why for me, Grindr is like almost like shopping for sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
They all become that at
exactly.
Some point. But I think that covers us.
Your longest relationship?
Yes.
My longest relationship actually was just over 10.5 years.
Whoa.
My God.
That's a gross amount of commitment.
And
Imagine being in love.
In gay terms, that's
forever.
Dead. Yeah.
There's no steel or something that you could give as a gift for that amount of time. But yeah, just over. It
True,
was about
because like
10
the
and a half
move-in
years.
date's what, 1 month, right?
Yep.
I think it's what my mum and her girlfriends always did.
Yep.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like so fun fact. Individuals that are gay and lesbian, because there is no heterosexual dynamic, they build intimacy faster. So there's no role playing of this like male female het based relationship. So it's like intimacy just gradually builds faster, and then like bigger style commitments like moving in, owning a pair, having a baby tend to happen faster.
Absolutely.
My God.
Which is really cool. I think that's awesome.
I hear gay couples move in after 3 months and like, you're fucking nuts. Because you don't know if you've got Jeffrey Dahmer,
man,
or if you've got,
let them gamble,
living by your side, living by, sleeping.
I think so.
On your, by
it's interesting though. You remove the dynamic of male to female, and then things just kind of seem to flow.
Yeah.
It's almost like heterosexual relationships.
Not necessarily safe or not, but
no pun intended.
Yeah.
All right, shortest relationship.
Was about 2 weeks, and that was that creepy dude who I met on. It wasn't Grindr. It was an app before that, and I can't remember what it was called. But we met up, and we were physical with each other, and I just was like, this isn't working.
Yep.
And so I sort of made it. I sort of said, this isn't working. And then this was, I can't even remember what year it was, but then I was at Coles one day doing some shopping, and I was in the checkout and, waiting for, to get my stuff. And I looked out, and he was standing in the car park.
Just like standing like legs apart.
He's just standing staring at me.
That's like Jason. Like, how he just fucking appears.
Right?
Yeah, he's just there.
Is this a work colleague?
And I was like...
No, so Jason, the dude that wears the mask.
Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th.
He's
Sorry, oh my God, it is Friday the 13th.
Is it actually?
You know that? Yeah, it's a Friday the 13th.
It's like a famous scene, like he's there with the cleaver just fucking standing.
Yeah, I don't do horrors. Thank you.
Yeah, with a machete.
Yeah.
And he was standing there, and I was like, oh my God. And so I kind of, went, I started putting my stuff on the conveyor belt and all the rest of it. And then the next thing I heard was, hey, handsome. And I turned around, and he was standing behind me.
No, that is an absolute no.
And then the last straw was he left me like it was a note, but it was like, the cutout pieces from a newspaper.
That is actual serial killer
And I
stuff.
said to him, I said, you need to back off because I'm getting really, really uncomfortable with
and
this.
Did he?
So, yeah.
Okay, at least he, no offense, but glad he got the message, because that is...
But he was...
I watched The Bodyguard the other day, and that is serial killer stuff.
Yeah, he was...
But that's what I'm saying. Like, why?
No.
I don't think the cutout letters.
It's so romantic.
It was like, am I going to find a boiled Italian greyhound in my, on the stove? It was like, where's this guy going to take this?
I don't think the cutout letters have ever been received in a positive way. That's always
we know that it's in movies of like, someone.
Yeah.
That's fucking wild.
I don't know.
Man.
I think he thought it was funny, but because it was kind of joking.
You know what? I would probably tip my hat to that.
Okay, no, unless you had explicitly made like conversation or had a conversation around your style of humor. That, I love how in movies they do these cutouts. Like, it's so fucking stupid.
And
if you said that word for word and then you did that, then I'd be like, what?
Look, I love my horror movies.
No, but that's more psychological thriller.
I kind of read it, and it was very ambiguous, and so I was kind of like, who's this from? And I kind of figured out.
He just sent a text, and he's like, have you gotten my letter yet?
Yeah. I kind of knew it was him straight away, and I sent a pretty stern message that I wasn't appreciating it, and he backed off. So 2 weeks.
Okay, so this will most likely be a description of Gary.
Yes.
But how would your friends describe your ideal partner?
Somebody who pushes me. I think that look, Gary does that diligently with me because when we first met, I realized very, very quickly on he loved to travel.
Yeah.
I hadn't been on a plane in 25 years. I was petrified, claustrophobic, I refused to travel. And, Gary's, loves to fly, and Gary's quite a social person, and I wasn't, once again, don't like being around crowds.
Yeah.
All of that kind of stuff. And over the period of time, I wouldn't drive through the Burnley Tunnel,
bullshit,
freeways, a whole heap of stuff, right? Yeah,
that's wild.
And I think quite a lot of it's got to do with what happened when I came out.
Yeah, it's to be trauma based for sure. Yeah.
Residual mental trauma. But, Gary kind of pushed me and in a very, very specific way to kind of go through that journey. And, if somebody had told me 5 years ago that, in the last, since 2020, believe it or not, we did go overseas right before COVID hit. But, I've been to Singapore, I've been to England, I've been to Scotland, I've been to Canada, I've been to America.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you had told me, before I met Gary that was going to happen, I would have said, you're fucking dreaming. No way. And so, so that's what he's been able to do.
Yeah.
And I think the other important thing that, that a lot of my friends would know is that he cemented me as a person in making this like, we're almost like a married couple. So
I would think so. Yeah, definitely.
He moved in. We have dual responsibilities. We have joint accounts. All of that kind of stuff. So for me, it's somebody and someone who isn't afraid to take the piss out of themselves.
Yep.
We don't really have barriers about saying, oh, you just push that too far. There obviously are things, but not many. So I want to be I suppose for me that being an ideal partner is someone who makes me laugh, but Gary's also a very intelligent man, and he makes me think about things and things about myself. I'd say something, and he'll turn around and go, do you know how that is actually coming through as?
Oh, wow.
And
I love that.
even some sort of stupid funny things, because, we live in a double story place and he will, I'll scream from, the ground floor, Gary, and he won't respond. And so I'll walk up the stairs. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, well, I'm here. Just walk upstairs and say, Gary, and I'll respond.
But that's
just little things that.
And that's cultural too, because the WOG thing to yell upstairs, be like, Ma.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, I still cop the yell from that.
I'll
from
give you
my
that.
mum.
It's fine. It's fine. It's all right. And actually, you know what? Fucking, it happened with Amy. Because she's French Australian background. And my shower was fucked. Yeah, my shower was fucked, and she'd had a shower and it was kind of dripping. I didn't know, and I was like, Ames, and she's like, well, what's wrong? You sounded really angry. I'm like, no, and I was
just
trying to
showing.
get you to come up the stairs. But I think it's that gap thing. It happens quite a lot.
I do it a lot
to
too,
honest.
and then I forget that. But all my family are both hard of hearing, but also super WOG. So anytime I shout at someone, someone's interpreting it as anger. I'm like, I'm not. I'm trying to convey a communication.
The cultural difference between the two of us, Gary Gary left Scotland when he was 17 and then came to Australia when he was about 27.
Very
so
shrinking to self-quiet.
But when's the embedding? The embedding's fairly young, right?
Very young.
Yeah.
So it's all done, mate. It's all packaged
7
inside.
is your
So
neuroplasticity
I am
age
that
and
Gary. Really, I don't want to break the microphone, but he'll be like, why do you have to do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so I'm constantly being challenged all the time. And my mind's, also constantly sort of thinking when I speak to him. And I can have some really deep and meaningful conversations with him, whether it's on a personal level, whether it's on a financial level, all of that kind of stuff. So
you're taking a beat more than being impulsive, just like having a breath of moment to just kind of think before you speak.
Yeah. Absolutely, because it's like
it's a nice quality to have someone bring out in you.
Yeah, and I think
Don't be jealous.
without
I'm falling in love with how you're describing Gary.
I am
just like, I want a fucking relationship that is so wholesome like this. It's not jealousy, it's like admiration.
But you know what it is? It's as you mature and stuff.
I don't fuck age. I just want to find my homie G to love forever. I'm so fucking done.
It'll happen. But
fuck men. Fuck you all.
I think at the end of the day, all those things that he does makes me a better person.
And that's, I think, at the end of the day, the biggest thing.
And that's the culmination of all of those things that I would have looked for in an ideal partner. And I'm very, very fortunate that he came into my world and has provided all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm the luckiest person on the planet.
Yeah. a la
My
Grindr.
little heart is very happy.
Which leads us perfectly into.
Grindr.
Yes.
Obviously, see, I didn't know you were on. Like you were around when the dating apps were.
I
a
was.
thing,
Yep.
but that makes sense because it was so much far in front of when like the straight dating apps happened.
I was on dating apps before they were actually apps on phones.
Yeah.
They were apps
Online.
on they were website browsers and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I have when I was single in between my last partner and Gary, in between the 11-year, 10.5-year relationship and
The 2-weeker.
my next partner, which was about 6 months or something like that. I did jump on, things like Grindr and stuff like that. And I met my next partner, Matt, and we were together for about 8 years. And I met him on, but it was a web browser thing. I can't remember the name of it, but, but I have, and I got mates that use Grindr and Scruff and all of that sort of stuff. But
what is Scruff?
Scruff. So Scruff is for like, your more hirsute.
What is that?
Hairy, bulkier guys.
Bear daddies.
Okay.
So a bear. So they call it scruff because it's like, I'm a dog, or a bear, or I don't know what they are. But it's for your more. So not so in the gay culture, we have so many.
It's the best
terms like twinks.
Yeah.
So twinks
Otters.
are young guys who have no body hair.
Yeah.
You've got otters who are
skinny
younger,
bears, right?
Otters.
younger,
Otters.
hairier guys.
Brilliant.
Who are a bit more muscular. Then you've got cubs who are young bears. Then you've got bears, daddies, rice queens, all of that kind of stuff. And so Scruff is aimed at that. And it wouldn't surprise me if, and I know there's Tinder and all of that sort of stuff, which obviously markets to gay people as well. But Grindr, from what I know and what my mates tell me is it's basically a sex supermarket. You just go shopping and you go, you're 200 meters away, I'll give you a blowjob.
That was exactly with one of my friends that did that. Yeah.
I just,
when we hung out, they would look for who was closest to my house.
The one for that for straight people is Field. It is purely
because you want to cop one.
Hookups. It is hookups and threesomes and like just
it's more kink
It's
friendly.
all sexually explorative. So it's like literally if you're on that, it's not to date people.
Yep.
It's to fuck. So but it took up until this year for the straight world to have that. It just shows you how much slower it transitions.
Yeah.
Behind.
But no, that's been my experience. But I did meet Gary on Grindr.
All right. So what relationship or dating advice do you often give your friends the most? Do you notice like you end up, because what happens with a lot of shit, people end up finding that they're telling people kind of the same things because it's very easy to see someone's problem from the outside.
Yep.
Yes.
And being humans will often just be like, you're just doing that, man. Do you think you do that to people?
I think when people are not having a good experience or they want advice, I really just, and this is probably part of who I am, being empathetic and trying to make them feel good about themselves is really important. I will never say to somebody, you need to dump that fucker because, he's a prick or he's doing this. But if they say to me, he's a real prick, he's done this, I'll go, yeah, absolutely, I agree. So the advice that I give is basically steering them in the direction they want to go in themselves.
Okay.
I'm not one of these people who's going to say that's a mistake. However, having said that, if somebody, if a mate was to ring me and is like, I was dating this guy and then he ghosted me and all of that shit, I'm like, drop that.
Yeah.
Cunt. I can say that word.
You can.
Drop that cunt's ass, it's not worth it. You're better than that. So it's about upholding and maintaining their self-esteem as well. So
it's more like supporting, I guess, confirmation for them rather than advice per se.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's actually what a lot of people need. It's just validation.
Yeah,
most
it's validation. I'm not a therapist.
But that's what triggers me though, is I'm like, you just want me.
Well, you are, I know. But
no, but even still, people who ask for advice do not want advice. They just want to tell you their problems.
I hate that.
And they want to be validated.
I hate that shit.
You know what? They just want to air it and get it off their chest.
But you've got to say it. You go, would you like me to hold space for you or do you want me to give you advice?
Yeah.
And then most of the time people go
That's
and
handy.
reflect
I'll
and they go,
use that.
oh, no, I just want to talk about what's going on. I'm like, okay, go ahead. And then you have the freedom then to kind of comment where you do
Yeah.
rather than give advice that they will ultimately not follow, piss you off every time they come to you about the next thing that they do, like
Yeah.
Nucci has done for me several times. But to be fair, I don't think I ever ask for advice from you because I just want to speak about it. I know what I'm doing
I know,
wrong. I
yeah.
know what I'm, no, I know. But I
Yeah.
mean, like,
It's
I think in
because
those contexts, it's
you're
just helpful,
ruminating,
right?
you're ruminating emotion
rumination
in your
loops are
brain,
delicious.
and it starts to fuck with you after a
Can we
while.
get pizza
and you're
after
like,
this?
you know, hey,
Just feeling very like ready for pizza. Sorry.
craving pizza.
Yeah, it
Oh,
just
okay.
came on like very suddenly.
Welcome to the little experience.
Sorry. You're just going to get like derailed completely.
But yeah, so that's what for me. It's about support and
Beautiful.
just
You
listening.
can take 10 if you want.
Really,
I will take 10. Take 10 minutes to order.
All right, bro.
Okay. Rude. All right. Do you remember where your go-to date spot was, or do you have like something that you usually use as like a go-to date whenever you're on a first date?
so before the apps and all of that kind of stuff,
If you wish, yeah.
in the 90s,
Very cool.
which some people weren't even born then. But anyway, so
I was.
as I
born in the
mentioned, we
90s.
had Commercial Road.
Yeah.
So that was a place to pick up.
Oh.
So you had, as I said, you had those clubs on the strip of Commercial Road, and then you had places like the Peel in Collingwood. You had
I've heard of that.
the
Yeah.
Laird. I don't know what is it, Collingwood or Fitzroy, whatever it's called. There used to be saunas. Not that I only went to a sauna once.
The bathhouses, my man.
Which was in Smith Street. My mate. And my mate John, who I met, in the early 90s, he's a very dear friend of mine, and he took me to, it's on Smith Street, I can't remember what it's called, and we went upstairs, and it's like, what the hell is going on? There's just naked guys walking around. I'm like, I don't like this, I'm getting out, and I'm a bit of a prude like that, you know.
Yeah.
But as far as you know, you'd have the gay clubs, but they were sort of pickup places.
Yeah. But if you're taking someone for a date, like, so you're actually like
Going on a first date.
it's not just a
you
hookup or
organise
whatever.
Oh, for
Like,
me,
you're gonna do-
it would be like, you know, a nice restaurant or,
Okay.
or a coffee shop or
Yeah.
something like that to kind of start to get to know them.
Yeah, my first dates were always really informal. So it would be
having
like,
said that, my first date with Gary was at my house.
yeah.
Oh, you could have been stabbed.
So
Yeah.
that was
Cute.
well.
But they met on Grindr. Did
That's
that,
what I
did
mean.
that frame
You
it
could
a
have
bit
been
differently?
stabbed.
But we look.
That's what he
Gary,
was hoping
Gary
for.
and I before we did meet in person.
As you should always have public dates first.
Yes,
Safety.
Yeah.
I know, but we had this connection and we spoke so much.
Yeah.
This
Oh, look,
feels
I
like
could
a-
have been chopped into 20 pieces and
Yeah.
stuffed into a
Thank
freezer.
you.
Who knows? But
Correct.
But you weren't. Alas, here you are.
yeah, I'm still alive. My black heart is still beating, type of thing.
Yeah.
But there was just this element of trust.
Mm.
But yeah, I have on those times where I did go on dates, I would meet in a public area
Yeah.
where I sort of felt, you know, if I
But
had
were
to
you a
make
coffee shop dude? Were you like,
definitely coffee shop
Yeah.
because it's kind of informal, you know,
Yeah.
and it,
Yeah.
there's a you know, I've had my coffee, got to run, not
Yeah.
where a restaurant where it's like I've got to finish my bloody meal, then I've got to do this,
Yeah.
all that kind of.
and you can do
bullshit.
more shit
It's-
afterwards if it's good.
Exactly. You can go,
Yeah,
oh,
it
do you want to go to the shops, or do you want to do this, or do you want to do that? So
It's old school, but it's versatile.
Yes.
I would just, if I had shit to shop for, I guess with girls, because they always think that, you know, fucking they'll give you fashion advice and shit.
you're talking to a gay man.
Yeah, that's exactly
fashion.
right. See, it doesn't work. But then I would be like, but then they would realize I knew what I was doing anyway, and it was like, oh, it's just a date. I'm like, yeah, it's just a date.
But yeah, that I think that's the same sort of across straight and gay.
What's
first
your
dates.
go-to dating? I've never asked you that, like your first date,
An
because you take
asylum?
charge a bit. So
I do.
yeah,
It's different every single time.
you don't have a consistent strategy.
No, I don't do consistency. I do adapt to the individual.
That's
So,
good.
like, I learn about them enough in like
That's-
the first meeting to be like, okay, cool. So Cole's
That's more
guy.
honest though.
Well, it's
That-
just
this dude was
autistic.
Fucking weird.
I don't like restaurants and I don't like cafes. They're too loud. They're too overwhelming
Yeah.
for like sensory wise. So like sometimes if I'm in a good space, of course I'll go like a cafe or a bar or whatever. But I think one of the first thinking on dates. I don't really go on dates, to be honest. I just fuck people. But when I have, it's either been like
But
going
didn't you
to,
say
an
like
ice-
20 minutes ago, I want a relationship?
Yes.
No.
This is
I've
the
been
duality
I've
that is
been
Lil.
no. Hear me out, right? When
Right.
I'm single, I'm a fucking slut. When I'm ready to commit, like I'm tunnel vision.
Yep.
So for me, like if I'm in the mindset that I want to, like with my previous ex, he and I had gone into a relationship starting out as fuck buddies, but when we first met, we'd gotten a few drinks and we'd gotten a few movies, and I love movies, so I love watching and sitting down, and like we chose one of our favorites each, and that's what we did, and we watched those during the night and drank, because we knew that we both like movies. My like first boyfriend in high school, what the fuck did we do? We didn't fuck for like the first month, and I remember getting like teased so much because I was like super horny as a teenager, and like the fact that he didn't want to fuck was like a bully. Well, it was like a tease, a light tease. It wasn't bullying. What did we do? I think we studied because he said that he was really focused on his HSC, and I was like, cool, let's study together then. And I love that shit. I like to accommodate like my things for the people that I'm with.
You mirror.
Yeah,
you mirror for
I'd
dates.
rather match, my partner's energy. I personally don't mind. If you're taking me on an errands date, fuck yeah. If you're taking me to watch the stars, amazing.
Yeah.
If you are doing whatever, it's just the thought behind it. So if someone is like really well-intentioned, then the date is perfect. It could
I need
be
to learn
small.
more of that. I need that.
In what way?
I'm just too rigid. I get really
Rigid or
uncomfortable.
frigid?
No, mate, no. Rigid.
Not frigid.
Right.
You're
Fucking-
frigid. Oh my
maybe I should
god.
do that.
Frigid. That is
Wow,
so
you
like
fucking
Miley
can.
Cyrus's whatever.
If
she
I'm ever
was.
single again,
That
I'll maybe
stupid
go down
character
that
she
route.
played.
That might save me some heartache.
I haven't heard the word frigid in yonks.
Um,
Jesus Christ.
But when
Bring
do
it
you
back.
feel is the right time to bridge the gap from casual dating to exclusive dating?
That's a very good question.
I think there's no formula. I think when you both are kind of, when you feel that it's sort of the relationship's going to the next level.
What's the indicator for you though?
It's a chemical reaction in my brain that just makes me think about that person.
Thanks, no.
That's a neurological con job, actually.
No, not being. Look, I suppose for me, it's kind of like I get to the point where I feel really physically, mentally, and emotionally attracted to that person.
Yes.
So safety as well.
Yeah, but I need to make sure that they feel the same way about me.
So you need
Yeah.
reciprocal confirmation first.
Really?
Absolutely.
I get that because I need that too.
No.
If
I
I don't
did-
know if someone likes me, if I'm going to commit, the minute
I
I know
did.
someone likes
Yeah.
me, I'm like, I'm all in.
Look,
That's funny. You guys both like that. I literally throw it out there if I feel it, and I like.
No, I'll
I think
throw
I
it out
trust
there
my judgment.
too, though.
I
And
mean,
I'm
this
like-
is going to make me sound like a real pussy, right? But I
Yes.
remember the
what
day.
you said before did.
I remember what?
I said what you said before did.
Fuck off. No, I think for me, the first time was, like when I first told Gary that I loved him, I was like, I want to say something to you, but I don't, because I was scared of him not saying it back. So I kind of, if it's not reciprocated, then I know if I don't know for sure that it's going to be reciprocated, then that really scares me.
Yeah, it's a vulnerable space to be in. But for me, the I love you back isn't something I need to hear because I'm like Nucci in that way. I will throw it out, but I will only throw it out if I feel safe enough to know I will have a level of reciprocity back. So I have always said I love you to my partners first with no expectation. I'm like, yep, look, I'm throwing it out there. These are my feelings because I've felt a level of we're at least to a degree committed. We're at least to a degree people who care about each other. And I don't have to have a bit of insecurity every 3 seconds. That is usually the criteria that I feel safe in asserting how I feel. But I don't need the reciprocity back, but I think that's protection from rejection.
Yeah.
I'm very terrified of not receiving it. So I think I've conditioned my brain to go, I'm not receiving it ever.
And I think that, taking it to the next level about being, to making it more serious, to being exclusive for me as well is, I've got certain principles. I mean, look, there are people out there that, want to have open relationships and all that kind of
Yeah, is
stuff.
that big?
Not about that one.
It's very big.
In the gay community.
It's really, really big. But for me, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Fair.
me, Gary and I are monogamous. It's the way, we're
Yeah.
husband and husband, basically.
So wouldn't that get fucking annoying when, like, because you guys would go out, right? So I'm assuming a heap of dudes would assume
So sorry.
that, like,
my bladder is about to pop.
that you're fine. We got it. That some guys would basically just proposition. Like, do you have that happening out of the blue a lot?
I'd love to say yeah,
but not so much.
Because people go,
Yeah.
"Fuck, he's hot." No, but
Yeah.
And as you're approaching 50, I think maybe things change a
But I
little
guess
bit.
the alternative is, as opposed to straight couples, that never happens. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very rare that, say, like, we'd have a girl come up and be like,
Yeah, I think it's probably and I'm only going on my own experiences, I would say it would be maybe a little bit more elevated in the gay community because it's kind of
just think that it's.
I think things like threesomes and polyamorous relationships and all of that kind of thing are a lot more accepted because for some people it's a lot more fluid.
Yeah,
and I think everybody's different. I mean, there are those people that want to do the mother-father breakfast type of thing where you know they get married and they adopt children from.
So you guys don't want to get married?
No. I think
I reckon it'd be a dope wedding. I think you should do it.
Yeah, you know the thing is for me it's about the concept I'd like, but it doesn't change who we are and our circumstances and who we are, you know, and our journey together.
Yeah.
So
it's just a fun party.
I just want to get. The only reason I want to do it is because I want to get presents and get some money back for all the fucking weddings I've been to and I've had to buy money.
100%.
Are you talking about marriage?
Yeah. I asked him if they were going to get married.
I love marriage. Is the answer yes?
No.
Oh.
No.
But it's.
I mean, all marriages like a 50% divorce rate. It's understandable. But like,
when
I'm a hopeless fucking
is,
romantic. I want to be married and I want to have a wedding in the forest with fairy lights and walk barefoot down the aisle to the love of my life. That's how it's planned.
Such a little experience.
Isn't it just?
So this one might not be applicable to you, but when you've broken up with people in the past, do you have go-tos? As I've noticed in my the way I'm built is I'm very much I'm like if I've paired with a girl, it's a ride or die type scenario. I just don't have it in me to quit on a relationship that I've deemed something that's gonna be. This is the thing. It takes me a while to date people. And when I date them, every instance has been forever.
Yeah.
Regardless of who it was.
Yep.
So I don't really have that ability to do that. And this is why it interests me. So when you think you're going to break up with someone, do you find yourself doing the same shit to get out of the relationship?
I think with me, my experiences anyway is I get to the point where I become so worked up in my own head and I become almost angry at
resentful.
That's the most Italian shit you've said all night,
right? Folco mio, as they say. But the thing is that so for me, then I start disliking the person.
Yeah,
and you know, this is not to anybody in particular. This has just been sort of one or two of my experiences.
Yeah,
and so I start to kind of mentally switch off.
Yeah,
it's because there's something that's missing in the relationship that I'm craving for. So for me, then I just kind of back off, and then it's about just going, all right, I need to do this, and it's difficult to do.
You psych yourself up for a hate breakup.
Yeah,
effectively.
Yeah,
that's wicked.
But sometimes though, and the thing is that the other person doesn't always see my behavior as hateful. They're like, oh, you're kind of fun, and it's like, what just happened?
Like, I'm actually being a cunt to you, but okay, that's funny.
Because that is a lot of people's gags.
I'll go with it. Yep.
Do you find you're the breakup B or the breakup more often than not?
Okay. I don't want to sound like, I've got like tabs on me, but...
No. There's people that break up and there's people that don't.
I had a relationship that went for 1.5 years, which I broke off.
Yep.
Then the 11-year relationship I broke off. Then the 8-year relationship, it was kind of a little bit of both, but, sort of a bit
you
of
took the lead on it?
toing and froing. But at the end, the final decision was like I said, this is not going to work. So,
So you break up. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. I probably had you pegged at that initially, but then when you were explaining that, I guess you're the bit more of the, not femme, but like, a bit more of
a feeler.
Emotionally, I didn't think you would. So that's a fucking weird duality that you're like, fucking just
It's only because I either think that
maybe that is the reason, because you feel more, when it's done, and you're like, this isn't.
But it's never done. It was never done with malice or
minus the building up the hate to get rid of.
It wasn't like I put like an axe to their head and go, fuck off, or else I'm gonna you're gonna end up in pieces type of thing. But no, I've always taken their feelings.
Thought about it in mind first before making a rational decision. After
Absolutely.
The feelings. Yeah,
absolutely.
This was one for me that I was just genuinely curious. So all my lesbian friends say like the dating pool is like super fucking small,
and they all everyone.
Yeah, and they end up like cycling it pretty quickly, and then you end up just seeing the same fucking people. And you're stuck in this, like, it almost becomes like a toxic pool of the same people.
Yeah.
Is it the same for dudes?
I think I mean, I don't know what it is like right now, but based
Back in
on
the day.
back in the day, yeah, you'd always see the same people at the same clubs. When
Yeah.
you're on dating apps, you'd always see the same people popping up.
I guess for context, that's the same being a kid from the West going out.
Yeah.
You go to the same places, go to the same clubs, see the same girls. It's the same shit.
And you've also got to remember, like the gay club, there was like maybe 6 or 7 of them in Melbourne at the time. I mean, it's pretty sad now.
Was Love Mac around when you were going out? Love Machine. Just off Chapel.
Very much at the tail end.
Okay.
So, but you know, you'd see the same everything, same songs, same drag queens, same people, same this, same that. It was, and I think it was potentially because you know it was potentially still more closeted in the 90s.
That would have made it worse for sure.
In the early 90s. So, but yeah, I think it is a very small pool, and you do sort of find, you hear about, this person, and I have had personal experiences and experiences of friends when they go, oh, this is someone, and you're like, oh my God, I know you.
Yeah.
And it's like, shit, what do I do? What do I say?
Yeah.
So, you know, for example, my partner, Gary, his ex-partner, I used to work with him in a previous organisation.
Yep.
And it's like, how small can this world be?
Yeah, that's fucked.
It was just like we worked together for 12 months, and I had some interactions with him in a not so dissimilar environment like this on radio, and here we are. I mean, how fucking weird is that?
Yeah, that is fucked.
6 degrees of separation.
The same thing happened with Amy. So she used to keep her horses at my ex's sister's place. And I was just like, fuck. So, you know, like all of them. So not the last one, but my first serious one. And it doesn't cheapen it, but it like takes away from it. But you're like, for fuck's sake, like, can you just have like your own thing?
Yeah, it's. I think everybody sort of in that situation. Yeah, I've had it happen a couple of times, and it's like it's just kind of weird.
But I guess the good thing is we've got away from it. But this is the one thing that I want to know because we never have spoken about it properly.
Yep.
But you don't have to. But I would love to know your coming out story because you said it was pretty intense. It was a lot.
Yeah. So, you know, you see movies like these Hallmark films and all of this. You know, especially what's done. You know, today.
Yeah.
Where I think we've evolved to a certain level.
It's always happy.
It's not 100%, never will be. But you got to remember, you know, this was 1992 or whatever it was. And I wasn't planning on coming out to my family at that point. You got to remember I grew up in a European cultured family, highly Catholicized.
Guilt central.
Yeah. And when I heard,
it's just hate central, really. If you think about it,
it was, and very opinionated. But and I knew that, you know, I already knew in my head that if I was to come out, it wasn't going to go well because, like, I would hear, you know, I had posters of Pete Burns all over my bedroom wall, and you know, and my mum or whoever would be like, "What a freak! He's disgusting. He's a pervert. He's this. He's that."
Yeah.
And you know, when I was, and I remember this, like when I'm 14 or 15, and we're watching the news, and the Mardi Gras comes on, and somebody, you know, in my family would make some, you know, really derogatory, just horrible statement about the drag queens and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of knew it wasn't going to go well, which is probably why I tried to avoid it. But unfortunately, I kind of got busted, and so I got a phone call to go home, and I walked into the house, and you know the curtains were all closed. And
can you explain that? So how did they find out?
So there was 2 things. I used to have a journal.
Yeah,
believe it or not, you know.
No, it's a big thing back then before phones.
It's what I did, you know, back then, and then a relative had seen me on Commercial Road in Paran, with someone.
Yeah.
And in that journal, I had written my sort of deepest, darkest secrets and stuff, and that was found. So when I got called home, I came home, and all the curtains were closed, and you know,
my God, so dramatic, dude.
On the couch, and basically going, you know, had my journal in her lap, and she's like, you know, is what you've written in this who you are? And I was like, all right, this is kind of that moment. And I went, yeah, I am. And I can't remember sort of exactly what happened straight after that.
Yeah, because
things got very, very intense.
Yeah.
Things got very, very scary.
Yeah.
Within a couple of hours, I was thrown out of home. I
Fucking hell.
moved in with a couple of friends that took me under their wing. I went through a pretty bad period for quite a while with, being followed by detectives, being told I was brainwashed.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah. I mean, but let me explain this.
Detectives or private investigators? Like actual police?
Yeah, I never forget. A private detective, though, someone who's not like a member of the police force, but like someone who somebody would hire.
Yeah.
I got offered to, someone offers, and I've got to be careful because, I don't want to offend my family.
Yeah.
Because they are very important to me, and I have moved on past what had happened. But it was, I'd been offered to sleep, to go to bed with a prostitute to confirm that, that I could actually be with a woman.
Oh my God. Yeah.
All sorts of stuff. Things. I had some, really bad physical altercations where I was, badly assaulted. And it got to a point where at the end of the day, I ended up having a phone call from somebody that I was dating at the time.
Yeah.
And 2 members of my family was at his front door with a gun.
Fucking
You're
Christ.
kidding me.
And that's when, the restraining orders were put out. And I never forget, I got a phone call from a family member that night, and that was when I snapped as a human being. I just couldn't, I was 18, 19, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it. I mentally just, I crumbled.
You got pushed, yeah.
And then there was a very long period of time where I had absolutely no contact with my family.
Yep,
That fucking makes perfect sense, yeah.
Because I think for me it was, I was kind of, it wasn't that I don't agree with what you do, but that's what it was just completely the opposite.
Yeah.
And I think, as I said, a lot of it's got to do with, and this was something I learnt years and years later. If I put myself in the position of, say a parent.
You don't need to though.
Of my mum's or father's generation, where, very, very ignorant to what gay is, because you've come to this country, English is not your first language.
Correct. Yeah.
You don't,
Education's
you
the big
don't know
thing.
any gay people,
Yeah.
right? It's because you're talking the 60s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s type of thing. You don't know anyone, and then the only exposure you have is when you see men in drag on the news or priests who have molested young boys or the extremities of it.
Yeah.
And then they hook onto that and think, okay,
It's the same.
if you're gay, that
that's
means
the
you
same.
wear a dress, or you dress as a nun and parade down Oxford Street in Sydney, or you molest young boys, or all of that kind of stuff. And so the media's got a lot to
Fucking
be
oath.
held
Yeah,
accountable
yeah.
for in
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
So there was a massive lack of understanding. And, fast forward to today, I mean, look, I'm nearly 49 years old now, but my mum loves Gary to death.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that would have happened.
Yeah.
But there was that really rough period of time where things got really bad. Like I said, there were times where I was just fearful of my life.
Yeah.
Because I thought I'm probably going to get
I'm
killed.
so sorry to go. That's fucked, man.
No, look, but you know what? I've always said whenever anybody asks me about my story, it's like I never ask people to feel sorry for me because it was an experience. And and you know what? I had to grow up really, really quickly because I was, as you would know, as a growing up in a European household, you grow up under very, very
still happens
heavily
now, man.
covered wings.
And you didn't stay at home till you were 40. That's a huge win.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Terrible circumstances, but you beat the odds
You bucked the trend.
of every fucking vlog uncle I have, at least.
I didn't really have the choice. But the thing is that, you came under this very highly, it was like, that mother bird highly protecting her young. And then all of a sudden that's all gone and you're out of that nest.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've got $2,000 in the bank. I drive a shitty 1977 Toyota Corona. I'm in my first year of university. I've got a part-time job at Mile High Point, working in ladies' shoes type of thing. Yeah. And it's like, what the fuck? Which, probably that
Like, that should have
explains
been the first indicator.
That's all
shoe
really.
thing, right?
No, that's wicked. Yeah.
But it's like I went from having that solid structure to having absolutely nothing. And, as I said, it was, I can't tell you how many times when I did move in with two friends of mine, Janine and Maha, who kind of Maha escaped a situation at the same time, and the three of us moved in together. The amount of times that every time the phone would ring, I would jump a mile, or I would be staring out the window seeing if someone's car that I knew would come past.
Yeah.
Or we'd be sitting down watching the TV, and someone would start bashing on the door.
Yeah.
And it would be a member of my family. And so I was constantly feeling threatened.
Yeah.
And I was called every single name under the sun.
Jesus.
Poofter, faggot. I want to see, someone, a member of my family said, I'd rather you be a murderer than what you are today. So it was very, very extreme. And so, and I'm sure that stuff still happens today in some families, which is really, really sad. And I was one of the lucky ones, I suppose, where I had those two friends of mine that gave me, Janine and Maha, who really gave me that strength to go through that, or else whether I'd be here or not is kind of questionable.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, man. It can't get to that point. Like
it's very dangerous, and that's the amount of gay teens and gay young people at suicide because they're not accepted by their family or whatever. Because you are completely ostracized, and you go from one extreme to the next, and you have nobody. And it's kind of like you start to question, well, is this life worth living? And there were times where I was like, I don't know how much more I can take of this, because I didn't have the mental or the behavioral tools and the skill sets
Not
to
at
be able
18.
to deal with that kind of shit.
No way. You can't deal with breakups at 18.
No.
Let alone fucking identity.
My
That's
whole
wild.
world just crumbled beneath my feet.
Yeah.
I went from being completely, feeling complete. I was leading a secret life on the side.
Yeah, but you kind of
to try to be my authentic self type of thing. But I went from having a home life to nothing.
Yeah.
The very first night, I slept in my car at my outside High Point because I had nowhere to go.
Fuck.
And then, I was like, oh my God, I've got the university bills. It went from, and then, once the police had to get involved because of the physical nature of everything,
how were the cops with that sort of stuff?
You know what? They were pretty good. They in those circumstances when the police were involved, it was basically like, what do you want to do? I didn't feel that they were being homophobic.
Awesome.
I didn't feel that they were doing any of that.
Yeah.
But they were like, what do you want to do in this situation?
That's really great that they offered you the opportunity to speak to that too.
Yeah.
Rather than just making the shots.
Absolutely. And I did what I had to do to make myself feel safe.
Good.
Yeah, of course.
But, fast forward to now, and I've got a really great relationship with my mum because
that's massive. Yeah.
We rebuilt our lives and the understanding. And my whole family, like my nephew got married in October. Gary, Gary's a member of our family. Of the Ruberto family.
Yeah.
So, we go to weddings together in the family, baptisms, christenings, funerals, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And what us Italians and Wogs are like. We celebrate in a very big way.
Yeah.
And everybody in my family accepts Gary with open arms.
That's such a stark difference
epic.
to when you were younger. So it's really beautiful to see
absolutely.
how much adjustment and change they've done.
It's come 360. It really, really has. So I am appreciative of that. And
because one of the biggest things you can share with your partners is being part of a Wog family is all the big stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of people don't get that. And it's something that hurts, especially in those situations, if you don't have access to that shit.
Yeah.
We are so collectivist.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with, say, someone like Gary, who comes from a very individualist country like Australia.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, they're like, why do we have 500 people, who you've never met before?
Because all these people fucking love you and they want to celebrate you and this is community.
And some of them are cunts, but it's fine. Like,
everyone has fucking cunts in their
It's part of the culture.
Yeah.
It's special.
So it was a, and I've tried to kind of tell the G-rated version.
Yeah, of course.
Because I don't want to sort of go into the graphic detail of some of the physical things that happen, because I think that they're not triggering for me, but I think that I don't want to paint my family in a horrible light that people are like, oh, your mother or your brother or whatever was this type of human being.
Your
in case
family
they
could have
to
done really horrible things, but still
I could have been
honestly,
killed.
a lot of it,
you love,
you never know. Like
two truths can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
A lot of it is a snapshot of how dangerous it can be to be undereducated, undercultured, underexposed to things.
Yeah.
Because you find, like, with bigotry and things like that, quite often, and take it if you as offense as you will, but like it's people that are like super low IQ, super like sheltered, usually kind of highly religious as well. All these sorts of crutches that tend to radicalize like super quickly and respond to things like really negatively. You know, like as someone who responds to shit really negatively for different reasons, it's just like you need to just take a second and, you know, realize that not everything's a reflection on yourself, not everything's a reflection and or impactful to your life in any way, and you just got to be chill with it. You don't even have to be accepting. You can just be chill with it. Like
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I learned a couple of really valuable lessons. And you know, one is that, you know, blood is not necessarily thicker than water, but.
Correct.
And
yeah, it's
you know,
a hard one.
Family,
That's a hard one to stomach sometimes.
It was, but I realized that, you know, my family then became extended to these friends and these people in my life.
You can pick family. That's a big thing, especially as a WOG. You don't think you can. Yeah. And then when you realize you can, it's real confusing. He's like, hang on. Like what? You know, but then you just make
absolutely. It work. But you know, like I said, fast forward to now and things are very different. And
good.
You know, look, I had to make peace, and something for me that was really important. My father passed away in 2018, and I one thing that was really important to me was that I wanted to tell him that I forgave him. Not that my father was an incredibly introverted, quiet, humble man. And so, but I wanted to just sort of clear that air before he left this realm. And that was something that was very important to me that I, you know, only 5 years ago. But you know, I can understand how, you know, kids and teens would run away from that family and never see them again. And that's really sad, and it's really, really tragic, and that can lead to suicide and mental health and PTSD and all sorts of really horrible things. And I'm sure I've got some residual stuff, but that kind of that part of that period of my life, those years of my life, I don't know how I did it, because it wasn't something that was consciously done, but I've kind of compartmentalized it, stored it away in the back of my head, and I don't think about it.
Yeah, that's totally the only way to deal with that, I think, in that situation. Yeah,
absolutely. But because I think if I didn't, then I would have gone slowly insane.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
Fuck, man.
Thank you for sharing.
That was
No, you're welcome. Happy to share.
So outside of obviously your family, how fucked was Melbourne during that time for you guys? Like, was it? You said like they would drive down Commercial Road and yell fucking the F slur.
Yeah.
But I guess honestly, like Amelia, my ex, her brother's gay, and we even ran into scenarios in Sydney where we'd be walking through fucking shopping centres. It was Western Sydney though.
Yep.
And
which is a bit rough.
People would look at him and his boyfriend.
Rudy,
Town, anything like that.
And we were like out one night and stuff, and it just it hurts that they're so comfortable with it still. They're like, yeah, that's just some dumb lebo. Like, I'm like, true. You forget that there's still those portions of society that just fucking hate for no reason.
I think
just don't have the awareness or the education around it.
Yeah, I think for me, back in the 90s when, you know, I came out and then, you know, started socializing in certain circles, you know, the racism and the homophobia was, you know, it was like if you're on Commercial Road or you were at the front of the Peel or whatever, like Brunswick Street, which, you know, back in the 90s, like Brunswick Street which is where all your eclectic, kind of quirky sort of alternative people would go.
Still is, yeah.
And it, you know, it's probably still like that, but
it's hipster central.
But that's the place where you would feel safe and you would feel comfortable.
Yeah, because it's progressive.
But in other places, you know, there wasn't, you know, because there was no social media and there was no internet. There was, you know, there was still a lot of that kind of hatred. And I use the term hatred because people were just really ignorant. We've progressed. Don't get me wrong, we've progressed, but
slowly.
We're not like Norway or Switzerland or any of those places where they are so progressive in you know, gay rights and all of that kind of stuff.
Isn't it interesting? Like you have that, and then you just go to Italy, and then I didn't realize how fucked it is for women on the street in Italy, man. Like, And because we were talking to a couple of locals and stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, man, you got to take Australia and then go 10 years back, and that's where Italy is."
Yep.
I couldn't fucking believe it. Like Amy, if she wasn't with me, would just get like approached and sequestered like fucking second to second, literally, because we were together for most of it.
Yeah, of course.
I went to the AC Milan stop to go get a top, and she's like, "I got approached like 5 or 6 times, and they just wouldn't fuck off."
Jesus.
But then you go like a little bit up, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's wild. They're
Just
so
depends
close,
where
but
you
so
are.
far apart.
Oh, look, I can't tell you how many times like I'd be waiting in a queue to get into Diva Bar or Faces or wherever, and you'd, because they had like one of those Souvlaki bars or whatever it was
love
next to.
Souvlaki.
And you got to remember, Commercial Road was next to Chapel Street, where all the straight clubs were, and there'd kind of be that crossover.
And Chapel was fairly woggy back then too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it was mega woggy.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you'd get sometimes you wait in line and people would just hurl obscenities at you.
That's fucked.
And you kind of learn to, I think the thing is that, when you've grown up through that period or you've experienced some level of discrimination or harassment, you do learn to build up quite a thick skin.
Yeah.
And you kind of just let it roll off and you go, oh, whatever, fuck you.
But it was pretty full on. Even though you could cope with it.
Look, it was
like, imagine if it was like that now, the fucking, mate, it'd be all over the news, right? Like, it
absolutely.
would not be,
Absolutely. We've come a long way. But it definitely had its moments in the 90s.
Some final question.
Are we at the bottom of it? Really? Do you want to take it?
Yes. If you could pass on any advice to our listeners that are struggling to find love or just dealing with relationship woes, what would you provide? I'm going to listen intently.
I think it's a couple of things for me. It's just
find a Gary.
Pretty much.
No, do you know what? Like for me, my advice is for them is for me to listen to them. So my advice is let you listen to what you've got to say.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm very careful about is I am not a relationship therapist. I can only talk based on my own situation, my own experiences, my past, my present, etc., etc.
That's what we want, baby.
Yeah. So speak to those, and then what would you give as advice?
Yeah.
I would say to them, it's probably best that you go speak to a professional.
I like
whether that be a psychologist, whether that be even your doctor, because they could be. If I've got a friend of mine, if I had a friend, for example, that was going through some of those, and it's constant knockback after knockback after knockback because the gay world and the apps thing, and if you're looking for a relationship, Grindr is not the place to go. That's my opinion. Yeah. There might be a lot of people out there that think that's just absolutely garbage, but for me, it's a hookup app, right? So of course you're going to get disillusioned if you're looking for that long-term partner. Yeah. And
that's basically straight dating now too.
Yeah, and the thing is after a while it will start to affect you mentally.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's when it's potentially you might where I would suggest why don't you go see a doctor?
Yeah.
Even just to get because if you're starting to get mentally affected by this, you might need a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Whether it's through therapy, whether it's through medication, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so, and the thing is, I reckon the thing that I would always say is you're the most important person in this situation. And you're the person that I care about right now in this situation.
Yeah.
So what can I do to help?
Yeah.
Is it just listen? Is it, I don't want to cross that line into providing advice unless they ask for it.
Yeah.
So I guess what I would do though is then maybe add to that. If you don't have that in your life, I would be seeking people out like Morris to find that. Because that's honestly, I didn't even think of the question that could be answered that way. And that's a big thing because I'm a big, I'll try and fix shit, right? Because of my job. It's just part of my thing. But there's something that's huge in just mirroring what people need and then just pushing them in the right direction to get the proper help.
Yeah.
And I think, it's a massive problem now with, and especially with straight guys, like you think that they would be okay with dealing with rejection, but then it's just amplified now is you can deal with you can take a shit and deal with 10 times more rejection that you would deal with back in the day than you would in 3 months.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's it's crushing, and it kills your mood. It makes you spiral. And then you start doubting yourself. You start getting self-conscious. You start looking for all these little reasons as to why there's something wrong with you. And it's hard, but it's not something that you can take personal. But it's the most personal thing.
It is.
You do dating.
Rejection's hard.
And it's that weird duality, you know?
And that's the thing, you know, all I can do is be empathetic.
Yeah.
You know, and really feel for what they're going through, because especially if, you know, if you're talking about, you know, someone that's I'm close to, but even it's someone that I'm not close to, it's like I can still listen. I can still be empathetic. I might not know the situation because there's somebody I don't know that well, but you know, it's kind of creating that safe space for them to be able to say, I think I need help. And it's like, okay, well, have you thought about blah, blah, you know, if you're making procedural suggestions, for example, whereas, and not directing them to, but kind of, you know, just opening up the opportunity for them to explore that kind of stuff can be really, really helpful, because, you know, it's like when, you know, going through COVID, you know, those people who were in lockdown alone, and I know you were one of them, right, Pete?
Yeah.
And so were you.
Yeah.
Like,
Less alone, because I did live with housemates, but I also realized I was autistic in that time. No, but I was living with 3 dudes.
Yeah.
One who was breaking the rules every 3 seconds. The other one who was Argentinian doing barbecues with other people. And then the other one who was like struggling to empathize.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anyone in Melbourne. I literally moved, lockdown happened.
Yeah,
So,
that happened to so
and my
many
ex
people.
broke up with me, and my cat Tilly died. Like 2020 fucking sucked.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think, you know, for people who are alone, like physically in a house alone, you know,
need some level of interaction.
I don't know how they got through it, and I really do take off my hat to those people, because
Farmers suicided. Like, it was really bad.
That's the thing. I don't think they'll ever really release the stats
of
how it jumped. I don't think they will.
It was fucking
I think
abysmal.
those numbers will be buried for a
My
very long time.
friend just completed her thesis on that. She was looking, and she went out to farms, and she was actually interviewing, obviously, the alive farmers, but around their mental health during COVID time, which is wonderful. She's doing, you know, a little bit of the work. It's not great, but it's fantastic that it's getting some light shed upon it.
Yeah, it was full on.
Those people that live through that by themselves, being alone, are
admirable.
the most courageous people on the planet.
Agree. Yeah.
You know,
Isn't
they
it
really
weird?
are.
Just existing was a problem for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I was one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
I had, you know, it was me and Gary and our dogs and our snakes.
That's the big thing
you know.
too, is a lot of relationships imploded. Like Sandra and stuff. Like, I didn't realize they broke up during that period. And it pressure cooked a lot of, I guess, things that were kind of bubbling with people for a while.
Yeah.
And I think they just maybe saw
because
that
for a lot of them, they're living in each other's pockets, and you can really start to get on someone else's nerves.
It's interesting that,
you know,
I guess I've always looked at the relationship side of things, is that when you do date someone, you do end up in their pocket, right?
Yeah.
And so
Like
for me, that was never an
financially,
issue.
or like literally, or
No, just together, like all the time.
You know, you kind of see them all the time. It you know, like, and for me, it's kind of like, even today, both Gary and I work from home.
Yeah.
We've got, you know, he's in one study room, I'm in the other study room.
Yeah.
And although we might see each other maybe 4 or 5 times throughout the day, because our meetings won't, you know, they don't cross over or they cross over. But, you know, I was one of the fortunate ones. I never had that sort of, I never went through that thought process of, oh my God, he's really starting to get on my tits.
Yeah.
And I need some alone time. But where I was really lucky is if, you know, say for example, I did need some of that alone time to put on headphones, listen to some of my favorite music, or watch a TV show that I wanted to watch.
Yeah.
Gary's really cool with that. He's like, you do what you need to do, and I'll do what I need to do.
Wonderful. Oh, I love people like that.
You know,
it's just being
I
both
think you
well
should date him
adjusted.
too. No, I'm only joking.
I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah, you can see yourself dead. But yeah, so that's the advice.
Talking about his
reckon.
divorce.
Can't read
It's all right.
anything, but yes.
But that
Is that a rap?
An hour 40. Was that a rat?
A rap.
No, a rap.
That's a rap.
That is a rap. That
is
is
a
yeah,
rap.
not a rat.
And that's a rat.
Thank you so much. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah. It was really
No worries.
I won't have to edit much, to be honest. That was borderline perfect. I think there's when you pissed, maybe I can clean that up a bit, but
not a stress.
yeah.
I said, does it get edited before it goes live?
Sometimes.
No, it's live now, and then there's
Yeah.
a copy that goes up.
Yeah.
On and then
Spotify's
I
and
do
the
a
YouTubies.
cut and then a master.
Oh, it's a Spotify. I've got
And-
Apple Music.
Yeah, it goes on that too. It goes on everything. It goes on Google, goes on Spotify, goes on.
Holy shit.
But you
Goes
want to
on
go on
everything.
Spotify because it comes with video.
Okay, keep plugging. Yeah, so Spotify, y'all.
Yes.
video.
Oh, true. And if you have any questions, please obviously email us at IrrPlatPod@gmail.com. Sorry, not that. It's irrelevant.platitudes@gmail.com.
Make sure you get the correct email, otherwise it's going to nowhere.
Yes. And our link tree is linktr.ee/IrrPlatPod.
Yes.
That has all our shit on it. So if you liked this, definitely go and listen to some other stuff. We've interviewed some bachelorettes, and we'll get some more. We've actually had an escort as well before.
Oh, well.
Yeah, we're pretty open to.
You're in
having
prestigious
too.
company, my friend.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you for having me.
That's all right. Thanks again. See you guys. Oh, is there anything you want to say to the guys before we go?
Très bleu.
I can hit the outro. if you want.
Everybody, jump on YouTube, Google Dead or Alive Music.
On
Check them
Google.
out. They will change your life.
Oh yeah, do you want to plug your socials?
As in Instagram and stuff like
you
that.
can't. Do you still doing the candles?
A little bit, yes, a little bit no. So
You don't want to plug it?
no, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, all that kind of stuff.
Morris Ruberto on all of the socials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and is tagged on our live story currently.
Sweet.
Yep.
See you
Absolutely.
guys.
See you guys. Bye.
What are you waiting for?
I'm waiting. The car's cold. The periodical.
Get the fuck out of here! What? Fucking warm it up. Get out of here!
Are we still on the screen?
Yeah, the man.
Yeah, we're still on. The
Get out
mic's
of here.
still hot too.
Thanks for listening to Irrelevant
Makes it
Platitudes.
If you can hear us over the outro. Okay.
Adios.
See you guys. Love you. Bye.